Hello, hello. Welcome to another edition of Business and Financial Raw Talk. I am Luana Bradford with the Bradford Group as well as the Bradford Group Consulting, where we consider ourselves the connectors. We help you find the money, but also we work with big business and small businesses to help elevate and expand you so that you can increase your impact, your influence, and your income. And we believe that we are making a difference. We have been in business for 15 years and we're excited about celebrating year 16 coming up in November. And for those of you who are joining Business and Financial Raw Talk for the first time, you may be wondering, what does she mean by Raw Talk? Well, the title is Business and Financial Raw Talk, a no holds barred forum for leaders and innovators. So the individuals who get to join me on this platform are those movers and shakers that are experts in their industry, who are influencers, who are shaking things up when it comes to philosophies, principles, strategies, mindsets in business and finance. And today I am so honored to have a guest, a friend, and I also like to say partner, joining me here on the stage, Miss Jacqueline Lulu Brown. And before I bring her up, I want to salute our sponsor. We have Help Heal Humanity, as well as Freedom Travel Diva.
For the past 5 years, Help Heal Humanity has successfully run an elementary school in Canaan, Haiti. Due to COVID-19, the political unrest, and the recent earthquakes, food is scarce. The students attending our program are coming to school starving, and therefore causing a disruption in their academic goals. We need your help, now more than ever, to provide these students with the nourishment they need to continue their education. Our goal is to raise $100,000 so we can feed 100 kids lunch daily and send them to school in the upcoming year. Thank you for your support.
Hello, 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 Miss Lulu Brown. How's it going?
It's good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's so good to see you. It seems like it's been an eternity.
Yes, likewise.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on Business and Financial Raw Talk. And for those of you who do not know Jacqueline Lulu Brown, formerly known as Lulu, I want to tell you a little bit about this amazing woman. She has over 45 years industry experience in the IT technical framework as well as engineering arena. And her impression on this platform has spanned the globe from the UK to Australia, I believe, and India, and so much more. And in these journeys, she has not only impacted and shaped the way technology has unfolded for us in society, but more importantly, she has used her influence and her knowledge to help expand the lives of women, to give them a voice, to show them that they can too rise, no matter what their backgrounds are, what their cultures are, what countries they're in. And in such, she has further developed herself as a transformational leader, leading her company as CEO and founder of Revolution Ascension. And as a revolutionary leader, it is all about the voice. It's all about standing in your truth, in your authenticity. She talks about coming from behind the mask, being bold in that. And she is really on a mission to help empower women in business, in her lane in ministry. She is an ordained minister, and she is also a consultant and a coach, a best-selling author of multiple books, a speaker, a leader, an influencer, just an amazing woman. So welcome, Lulu.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
This is so great because this conversation that we're having is entitled "Don't Be So Focused on the Process That You Miss the Opportunity," right? And that's easy for us to get wedded in what we think things should be. We may have our intentions. We always hear people say, set your intention or pray, be very deliberate, be very specific. But sometimes that specificity compartmentalizes us, as well as, I like to say, God, from doing all that is intended because we're so wedded to our limited beliefs in how things should unfold, right? And I know you've had a lot of experiences in your journey, and I want to start off with you have an amazing life lesson and story. And it's so provocative and compelling that you want to share it with the world, and you've done so on numerous stages in little small sound bites. And I remember you telling me, I am going to write my book, right? I'm going to tell my story. And I want to turn this over to you, but had you simply waited for the right time, sometimes we wait for all the lights to be green before we press the gas. If you had waited and not looked at the opportunities that were knocking on your door from collaborative works, you wouldn't have the title as best-selling author, which also opened up the doors for other opportunities, other speaking opportunities around the world. So I want to turn that over to you.
Luana, that is so true. Sometimes we can just get stuck and we have what we believe is the perfect plan and what we believe is going to be the perfect process. And it's easy to get stuck in those areas when you come from a world of technology, because that's what we live and breathe. Everything is a process. But as technology has evolved, the process has evolved too, where it's become far more agile than it was in past years. And when we think about applying that to our life and not getting stuck in the process and missing out on great opportunities. So the story is that I said I was going to have my book. I'm going to put my book out. And, it's really interesting because every time I opened my mouth to speak, to say anything, people would say, oh my God, you gotta write a book. You gotta write a book. So I said, okay. And it just seemed like it wasn't happening. And there were so many other opportunities that I really should have been focused on. So I decided to just focus on those. And to your point, when the first collaboration and we were in that together, 31 Ways of Influence. And when I saw the little best-selling seal, when I saw the book and my picture, and it had the best international, so it made bestseller international. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, thank you for that. So that was opportunity one. Well, that opportunity opened some doors and it led to another collaborative opportunity. And that one led to another collaborative opportunity. And that one led to another. And now, basically, I've got so much material to actually write the book. But had I have waited and said, no, this is what I have to do, and this is how I have to focus on it, you're absolutely right. I would not have a book with a gold seal next to my name. So that's, one story, but I think a story and an example of how you can seize opportunity in the moment and and I talk about stepping outside the box and coloring outside the lines. So that's an example of definitely stepping out of the box and coloring outside the lines.
Yeah, and I love what you just said. So in these collaborative works, and also you're speaking on stages supporting those works, you basically have everything that you need now to package together to say written by Jacqueline Lulu Brown, right? So sometimes we go, a circuitous route to get to the end, but you could have done it solo, right? And then a typical author who wrote a book. But because of these collaborations, these partnerships, these engagements, look how much broader your reach is. Right?
Absolutely. Especially when you can reach people international. And coming from a role that was international, I really wanted to continue to have that reach. And when the opportunity presented itself, that was a great opportunity, because now it gets you invited to speak at, and we're really still kind of virtual, but it gets you invited to speak on international conferences, stages. I believe it was the end of March going into the first part of April. I was the second time part of an international women's empowerment conference. And I probably would not have had that opportunity if somebody didn't see, I saw that book, I read that chapter, and then that begins to give you the exposure, to your point, that you may not have if you're just out there on an island by yourself. Not to mention, it's not as easy as people think to put out a quality book. If you're going to do it solo and you want it to be quality and you want to make a bestsellers list, it's not as easy as some people say it is. And that's being real and raw.
Exactly. And you know what you were saying is then it opened up doors for, again, we're talking about opportunities here. So if you had been wedded to the process, you would have missed the collaborative opportunities, the speaking engagements, then being exposed internationally. And so many people are so wedded to how we used to do things, right? Why aren't we all back in front of people? Okay, you can be. There's nothing wrong with that. But to know that from your office, you can now reach around the world without getting on an airplane. Right. I mean, think about the cost. So there is a financial cost as a business if you are traveling back and forth. And I'm not knocking those. There are times for that. But I think now as entrepreneurs, we have the opportunity to really leverage, you're from the tech world, really leverage technology to broaden our reach.
That is so true. And there are those times where, and from a ministry perspective, now I'm just going to be honest, there's that you got to be in the room, because that's the world that ministry comes from. Up close, personal, right there where you can touch each other. And we've learned that we can have that same spirit, that same togetherness, that same heart to heart. We can have that being on a Zoom or a StreamYard. It's not that it's like, oh, it's so different. And many of the, I'll say, religious organizations as well as churches are still not in their buildings. They still have not gone back. And they're on Zoom. And actually, they're reaching a broader audience. And I'll tell you why. Because they're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. And my mom's pastor is a perfect example of that. When the pandemic first started, I was doing her Zooms for her. And then she was kind of like, I want to stream to Facebook. I want to stream live to YouTube. So she's reaching an audience far broader than just her membership. So it really does pay for us to look at opportunities, because when I hear kind of like the saying, oh, I'll be so glad when we get back to normal. We're never going back to normal. There is no get back to normal. This is the new normal, and normal is something that evolves. It's not something that you go backwards with. It just evolves and moves forward.
unpackage that a little bit more, where you said the normal evolves, right? We never want to be static beings, and how we do things should never be static. If it was, we would still be in the agricultural era, right? But things, how we buy and exchange, how we network and communicate evolves, and so should we in business. What do you have to say about that?
You know, it takes my memory back to some years back working in corporate IT. And there was this buzzword, and the name of that buzzword was IT transformation. And it was every technology company was using IT transformation. And what they were doing was preparing the world and corporations for basically kind of where we are now. And I can remember coming back from a conference and I was just like, okay, let's get everybody together. And when I got with my peers and I said, we've got to be prepared for this and we have to get on board with this because we support a company that puts out technology and we want to make sure that we're giving our engineers the best tools. And I distinctly remember one of my peers saying, "Oh no, you're way out there. You know, you're so far out there. You're on the bleeding edge. You're not even on the leading edge." And I thought to myself, what's wrong with being on the bleeding edge sometimes? Who said something was wrong with that? Who said that? Because sometimes you do have to be on the bleeding edge and you have to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to put something out there of quality. It may not be the whole big strategic piece, but I'm going to put something out there that works to start to get us to where we need to be. So life is pretty much the same if we would, to your point, open ourselves up and look at the opportunities that it presents to us.
You are blessed to be married to an amazing man, Mr. Kevin Brown. And not only is he your husband and your friend, but you're also business partners. And I would like you to share a couple stories about the opportunities that have unfolded with you. So I know the two of you had it's like a little bistro, right?
Yes.
That you had.
Yes.
And tell us how you came from, both of you, from corporate, executives in corporate, to let's open up a bistro. How did that opportunity come knocking on your door?
And I'm going to be perfectly transparent, raw, and real. In that instance, I was like, okay, he's lost his mind. It's kind of like, we're going to go from where we are now and we're going to open this bistro cafe. And I was kind of like, And how that came about is that, one, he's from New York, and at the time, I believe his daughter, at the time, she was 11 years old. And she started talking about Italian ice. And there was nothing in the South that was like New York Italian ice. So in addition to opening this bistro, this cafe, we had something that was very specialized in the midst of everything else that was on the menu, which was this New York style Italian ice that we actually had shipped. The company that we were purchasing from was actually based out of the Bronx, which is actually where my husband grew up. And so we took that leap and we made the wise decision, because Kevin did not allow me to leave corporate. And I kind of wanted to. I was like, okay, now that it's open, I'm ready. But he didn't allow me to leave corporate. And that was a wise decision, because then the market tanked. And most people remember the 2008 tank. Mm-hmm. But the market really started tanking back around 2004. And it was in a small way. It wasn't the big real estate tank, but you saw businesses closing up. and you saw little strange things going on in the stock market. And so at that point, there were a lot of businesses in our area that were sort of going, kind of closing up. You look, and that was everything from the Dunkin' Donuts closed to Baskin Robbins. So it wasn't just a matter of you don't have a good product. It was just that is where the market, especially in that area, was at the time. So yet again, we decided, okay, we're going to move away from that. And now we're going to move on to the next thing. And Kevin opened a car service, a car service business. And he had, my sister calls it a fleet. She's like, he got a fleet of cars. And then all of a sudden, something called Uber came along. And slowly, and I was in corporate at the time, and slowly I saw companies moving away and going to the Ubers and the Lyfts of the world, because Uber in particular offers you that SUV black car service. So they were like, okay, we're not going to pay twice the amount for a personal driver when we can get a black car at half the price. And so in that moment, yet again, he said, okay, time to seize an opportunity. Well, sort of at the same time, I was coming out of corporate and coming to where I am now. And he decided to go into photography. That led to him going into videography and editing. That led to him going to drones and flying drones. And he got his pilot's license. And here's what he said. He said, everybody's flying drones right now and they don't have any license. He said, they're going to lock the airspace down eventually because everything is new. And he said, and when they do, all these people that are unlicensed are not going to be able to fly their drones. And while they're getting licensed, I'll already be licensed. And that actually happened. So now with Kevin Brown Creative Imaging, he's able to package a solution that is drone footage. It includes photography, videography, and editing. That ties directly into what I'm doing because I needed videography, editing, I needed all those things. So it just tied together very nicely. But if we would have stayed stuck where we were and kind of like, okay, but that's not my plan, we would never have progressed to where we are now. So it really, that's, 3 instances where something happens and people say, I don't like to say pivot because it's an overused word, right. But people learn to, and I believe this is your phrase, people learn to remain relevant. And you have to be relevant for what's happening in the moment. And that's what we have to do even right now. There is a lot that's going on in the world. And there is a need for I'm going to say a breadth of leadership training, culture consciousness, in the mental health arena. There's so much that's needed right now. And now's the time to seize those opportunities.
Just going back to, your story with Kevin and the photography. And I'm pausing there for a minute because I want our listening audience, we're here to talk about to not be so focused on the process that you miss the opportunity. Mm-hmm. So Kevin was, he was going to his classes. He was getting his proficiency up with his photography. And I was leading a women's group in Atlanta.
Yes.
And said, hey, Kevin, we need a photographer. And for a moment, it was a brief moment, he paused, right? Because he said, I'm not there yet. So now let's fast forward. How many times do we get a knock on our door, and we think, I'm not ready yet.
Right.
I need more time. And if we don't step through that door, someone else will, right?
Yes.
And then how many opportunities are now missed because they were opportunities that were designed to scale from that initial introduction that you think, oh, that's so minor, but it's to lead you to greater things. It's like it's the tiny, tiny tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
Right.
And that is so true. That opened doors because now people are looking and they want to know, wow, who did that? And just the other day, I was giving someone some information and I said, you know what? I have a picture and I can show you kind of what it's going to look like if you want to have an event at this place. And I sent the photo that Kevin took on where we're on the, I guess you can say, kind of like the little bridge there.
Yeah.
And
overlooking the banister, right?
Yes. And we're all right there. And then there are the photos of the piano and the photos of the backdrop that was created. And so when you take a look at the original opportunity, well, I'm not really there. Well, you know what? Get there while you're doing what you're doing for me. And that was, those were your words. Okay, that's fine, but come on, let's do this. And now we look at where he is. And when you asked me to send you the headshot, and when I look at my headshots from maybe 3 years ago, and I look at that headshot, and you can see, okay, now you're definitely there, because people look and they're like, oh my God, who took your headshot? And I had an individual ask me, she says, I have a project and it doesn't kick off until the first quarter of 2023. She said, but please, I'm going to make sure that I call your husband because I would like to utilize him for that project. So she's got a project all the way in 2023 because that's her strategic plan.
Right.
But she's already looking and noticing, wow, I see a skill that I need and I like what I see. That opportunity, had he not walked through the, for lack of a better word, I'm going to say the Bradford group / WPN door, event door, that would have never happened.
Right. And I think what you're saying is so powerful. And to those that are listening, I want to challenge you to, after this, think about just the last 3 to 6 months. Mm-hmm. What opportunities might you have missed because you were so focused, you had your blinders on, that your goal had to come about a certain way. It had to look a certain way. And maybe that's not the way it was intended to present itself. And so I always caution individuals to, as long as it's legal, it's moral, it doesn't conflict with your values, explore it. It doesn't hurt to explore. You could say, okay, tried it, this isn't working, but to just be oblivious to it, I think that is so sad. And I want to talk to you because you are a certified. You were certified by the International Coaching Association.
Yes.
And I know that you would think, with all of your years of experience, expertise, corporate, and now as an entrepreneur, that it would be just a no-brainer, right? If I want to have coaching, development, and mentoring, I need to go to Revolution Ascension so that I can get there faster. But why is it? And I have my own opinion, but this isn't about me. Why is it, do you think, that especially women entrepreneurs are so hesitant to invest in the opportunity that's going to get them to where they want to go that much faster?
It's, I want to say, this is raw and real, so I'll go there. Permission to go there. I think that it's misplaced priorities. And when the priority is misplaced, we're looking at what we think we're going to sacrifice. So I may have to sacrifice going shopping. I might have to sacrifice having the latest purse, or I may have to sacrifice getting my nails and my hair, going and getting that done. I might have to do that myself. But it's being willing to sacrifice. What are you willing? And I say this to our audience, what are you willing to sacrifice to invest in yourself to get to where you are literally destined to be? Because I do believe that we are all destined for greatness, and we are very often, we haven't reached our highest level, because I often say, and you know this, there is no sky, there are no limits except the ones we set for ourselves. Now, keeping that in mind, there's no magic wand. There's no puff, hocus pocus. It's work, and it is investing in yourself. And when you try to kind of just go by it, very often you'll lose opportunities. And the reason you'll lose those opportunities, because you don't have sharp tools in your arsenal and somebody else does. And you'll wonder, well, I have all this experience. Well, all my years of experience didn't mean anything when someone is looking for someone that understands the difference between coaching and consulting. That's number one. Number two is they understand how to actually actively listen and do an analysis if someone needs coaching versus therapy. All of these are the things that you're tested on, and you're making coaching hours where people are analyzing. And it's important to make that investment, because when someone wants to bring someone in, well, they're most likely going to say, I want to bring her in. She's certified. She is from an accredited, and I'm going to say accredited organization. It's international. And then on top of that, she clearly knows the difference between consulting and coaching.
Exactly. I love that. I was at the beginning of this year, I was talking to an individual who said that they wanted to do some work with my, because we're a consultant, so who's a coach, so on the consulting side. And I'm like, okay. And then I told them, looked at their body of work that they wanted to have done, understanding where they wanted to go, how quickly they wanted to get there. And I said, okay, this is what it's going to cost. So I get, I'm hearing crickets over the phone. I'm feeling the wheels starting to backpedal, even though I can't see it, but I can feel that energy going backwards. And then I heard excuse after excuse after excuse. And the sad thing, Lulu, is I thought, wow, any excuse will do. And that is so sad that individuals, and I'm speaking to the entrepreneurs out there now, women entrepreneurs in particular, you say you want to be an entrepreneur, but you're not willing to invest in your own dream. You're not sold out on your own dream. Because if you were, right, you would invest in the Revolution Ascensions of the world, the Bradford groups of the world, who have learned the mistakes and can help you navigate that much faster, which will in turn not only save you money, but make you money. Lulu.
Absolutely. I will say that it's a little mind-boggling when you hear the crickets in the backpedaling. And then there is, well, that's a little too much. I really don't want that. So now it's, how do I carve this down to a quick fix? And there are times when we just have to let people know, if you want the results, because I don't want someone to work with someone and then they walk away and say, you know what, I didn't get any of what I was looking for. Well, what you were looking for was this much, and you wanted to cram it in to this much. So you wanted to take 10 pounds and shove it in a 5-pound bag, and it doesn't work. So it really is important for women entrepreneurs to invest in themselves. And here's the thing, I attended a conference many years ago, and the conference leader said, I don't care if you have to go borrow money from your family. I don't care if you have to sell something, go take some clothes to the thrift store, go and sell something that you may not be using anymore, some things in your house, have a tag sale. She said, but if you are really serious, you will figure out where to get that money to, as you said, invest in you. Because if the individual doesn't have any skin in the game, okay, well, then why should I even bother to work with you? You have no skin in the game at all.
That right there was the biggest golden nugget, mic drop. Ladies, whoever is listening, if you did not hear that. So again, if you are asking for services, support, assistance, even loans, money from an institution, and you aren't willing to invest in yourself, you're not willing to put in that seed money, that seed effort, that time, why should we? And someone posted, and I want to just put this up. One of our listeners said they're not sold out because their value system is non-existent.
Wow. Now that, drop the mic. Drop the mic on that one. And that's true. Very often that's true. Then there's the other piece that an individual can get so comfortable in a false sense of security because they have that direct deposit every 2 weeks, twice a month, every week, whatever it is. And you can get so comfortable in that corporate job that you don't allow yourself to grow to another place. And I picked up so many golden nuggets from individuals. But there was another individual that said to me, she said, you know something? She said, I had to leave 6 figures to get 7. And I was like, okay.
Say that again, Lulu, for those that are listening.
Yes. She said she had to give up 6 figures to get 7. And I know her, and she's there. She literally is there. It's no kind of fake thing where people put up Facebook pages and say, oh, I made my million or what. This is real truth. And sometimes you have to be willing to do that. And I'm not talking about being unwise or foolish. I'm not talking about knowing that you have no way to pay your mortgage or you have no way to continue to sustain yourself. But I'm talking about sometimes we have to take that leap of faith using wisdom. And I often say we can take a risk without being reckless. Yes. So sometimes we have to take that risk without being reckless and say, okay, I'm not going to get 7 figures here, not on this. And I call it corporate plantation. And that doesn't have anything to do with slavery. When I say plantation, I mean, it's just workers. And you are a worker. Even if you're sitting in the corner office, you are still working for someone. You are answering to someone. Even at the highest level, you're answering to the board of directors. Right. And sometimes you take that leap of faith, and now you're establishing your own board of directors. May not happen right quick. It's not instant. But if you put the time in and you invest, and to the person that's listening, your value system. If you value you will want to go to that next level, and you will want to leave a legacy for your family.
Yes. Another listener stated, let me put this up here. It's called dependency syndrome of the check and limitation and impossibilities on self.
Wow.
And yes, I agree. And I want to give another side to that coin. Sometimes individuals feel pressured, like, okay, you're saying you want to be an entrepreneur. Well, you got to leave the job. Mm-hmm. Well, no, you leave the job with a strategy and plan. Don't jump foolishly, right? It's like any diver that's jumping off, even in his scuba gear, knows how deep the waters are he's jumping into. So do your homework, understand what it is going to take for you to survive, whether it's to replace that check or just maintain that month to month. But also, there is nothing wrong with allowing that daytime job to fuel your dream. That requires incredible focus and commitment, because think about it, you're working 8, 10, sometimes 12 hours, and then you're up grinding it all the way. So you have to weigh the cost. And I want to just encourage people to not allow anyone to push you off or out before you're ready, but don't wait for all lights to be green, because they never will. Right, Lulu?
Exactly. They actually never will be. Something will always come up. Something will always happen. And because life happens, who thought we would be in COVID? And when I look and I say, we've been in COVID almost 3 years.
It's scary, isn't it?
Who would have thought? And so life just happens. And as you said, be wise in your decision. Take counsel. And again, there's the investment. Invest in yourself to get the knowledge that you need. And as you said, it may take working those 12, 13-hour days, working on Saturday and Sunday and being exhausted, because you want to keep your income coming in, but at the same token, you're trying to fund and fuel your business with that paycheck. It's possible. You just have to be intentional. When you're intentional, and I often say that and I truly believe this, there is no one more powerful on this planet than a woman. I'm sorry. There's too much neuroscience and too much of the studying of the brain. And being very transparent, Lawana, you're aware of the challenges that I've had from traumatic brain injury, TIA. And so when you go through that process, you learn so much. Right. And it's like there is no one on the planet like a woman. And that doesn't make us better than men. It just means that we've got some special gifts and talents. And here's the thing, we all have them. We just have to dig down in there, pull it up, and exercise it. So I just encourage women, especially in a time like right now and the uncertainty, I encourage you to first go for your dream, because it's what you want. If it's what you want, don't keep saying, I want, I wish, I maybe, I don't know. Just have that plan and say, you know what? If I have to execute one little piece at a time, I'm going to execute a little piece at a time. And you'll be surprised the progress that you'll make. And you'll look back and you'll be like, wow, I didn't know I made that much progress.
Exactly. I want to share a little story, and this has involved me and you, and this is actually right at the beginning of the pandemic, and we were working on an event. The pandemic hit. We had this event we had been planning probably 3 months prior to the shutdown, but we were still moving forward, because again, the pandemic is unknown. We didn't know how long we were going to be shut down. And I remember coming to our group and saying, hey, we can still do this. We can do it virtually. And, this is being transparent, the sentiments was, no, that's not going to work. But how many times, and I know I've shared with you, with my business partner, he had a vision and I couldn't see it. Mm-hmm. And I missed that opportunity. And sometimes I think about that and so many others, like, and we can't live in the what ifs or the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. But for this conversation, what if, Lulu, because of our experience in hosting events and where Kevin was with the video presence, had said, you know what? We're gonna explore this virtual world. You come from IT. I mean, look at this. Look at the perfect storm. Strategy, IT, video converging, but we didn't seize the opportunity.
We didn't. And when you say shoulda, coulda, woulda, I am very focused on learning, because I don't just, throw it off. I learn from it so that my eyes are more in tune, that I can see when I'm going forward. Because there are so many opportunities, to your point, that have been missed. And I've missed a ton of opportunities that, I mean, I literally kick myself. I'm like, oh my God, what were you tripping on? I was like, what were you drinking? And you don't drink. And so when I look back at those opportunities that I did not seize the moment, a lot of times we not only do we not seize the moment, then the moment keeps coming to us. We don't follow up because we don't really think that, okay, this is really for me. This is my opportunity. It has my name on it. And when we back up from those things, we live to regret it, because guess what? You see somebody else just sailing, they just swim right on by you, and you're like, dang.
And you and I talk about blue ocean all the time. That was the blue ocean moment.
It was, yes.
And sometimes because the waters are so blue, you think, oh, it couldn't be. It's too perfect.
Right.
But yeah, that's the perfect storm. And sometimes you feel the fear and you do it anyway. And I love sharing that story, because again, it just shows the intersect.
Yes. That
independently we didn't have it, but together. Mm-hmm. I mean, you knew Zoom before half the world knew about Zoom. Think about that.
I really did. I really did. And we were working remote, going all the way back. Oh my gosh, I can say all the way back to 2001, 2002. Once we made it through year 2000, if you remember, the whole world was like, oh my God, what's going to happen when the clock goes to 2000? And once we got past that, and we knew that we had developed everything that was needed and we were sort of safe, then we started to look at other opportunities. And we were literally working from home and doing all those things. It wasn't as advanced as it is now, but we graduated from AT&T WebEx. Then Zoom came on the scene, and StreamYard, and all of these other blue jeans. And there's just so many, and technology is just constantly evolving. And, I look back and I'm like, you kind of missed that one.
Yeah. Well, Lulu, we're almost out of time. I want to take myself down and give you a minute to 2 minutes just to share with the audience what key thing you're doing right now, how to connect. I've put your banner information below, and then I'll come back on.
Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. And as Luana has stated, I am a consultant, as a women's leadership consultant and a coach, understanding that what the differences are. And my main passion is I am a radical disruptor of the status quo. I don't like to see where we as women, and we use the word excellence, but we're never making it to extraordinary. And if we use the word extraordinary, we're not making it too phenomenal. I want women to be in that place of phenomenal, past excellence, past extraordinary, but truly phenomenal. And sometimes we get comfortable, as we said, comfortable with the paycheck. We get comfortable with success. We feel like, well, you know what? I'm not doing too bad. I got 6 figures. It's not too bad. I've got the house. I've got the purses and shoes to match. I've got, I'm doing pretty good. And we get comfortable there. And that might be your space of excellence, but you might not have discovered your zone of genius. And why do I say this? Because I was there one day. I was operating in excellence. However, I had not uncovered my zone of genius. I was sort of thinking that I was operating outside of the box. I thought I was coloring outside of the lines. But when I really looked at all of the things that were down on the inside, all of the gifting that I was not utilizing, I realized that I hadn't even begun to scratch the surface of where I could go. So I just encourage, and I'm just so passionate when I'm working with women. So my information's there. Give me a call.
Please reach out, get to know Lulu, have a conversation, revolutionascension.com, and follow her on Facebook as well as Instagram. You will not be sorry that you met this amazing gem and who literally has a global imprint. So if you're even thinking about how do I get to India, what's happening in the UK from a business lens, check out her. Also ask her some questions about this upcoming trip to Dubai. So with that, we have to sign off. We encourage you to continue to challenge your mindsets when it comes to business and finances. Do not be afraid to show up authentically, coming from behind the mask, as Lulu always says, in all your brilliance and genius, and let the world see who you are, because you were destined to make an impact, an influence, and ultimately income. With that, thank you so much, Lulu, for joining us.
Thank you.
To our listening audience, we will see you next week on E360 TV, Tuesdays at 6 p.m., streaming on Roku, Facebook, Apple TV, as well as Samsung TV. And just remember that when your vision intersects with opportunity, success is inevitable. Until next time. Bye, everyone.
Business and Financial Raw Talk, a no-holds-barred forum for leaders and innovators with award-winning business strategist and financial analyst LaWanna Bradford with the Bradford Group. With Raw Talk, we are empowering women to rise and succeed in business and finances and improve the world for the next generation. Get ready to get raw and real. Live each Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern on E360TV.com.